Julian Lopetegui survived the previous El Sacico, but unfortunately for Gary O'Neill and Russell Martin, their time did run out and their clubs parted way with them, even though they tried so hard to build on some great football from the previous seasons. Unfortunately, it was enough. And the ownership said, it's time to move on. Or in the words of Sir Lord Sugar, you're fired. This is One Kick from Glory. We're going to talk about that and the very interesting snooze fest that was the Manchester derby that sprung into life in 2 minutes and changed everyone's perspective on nothing. I'm joined as always by Craig and Matthew.
Yep.
And we're actually going to start off with the news of the two managers that were let go this weekend, Russell Martin and Gary O'Neill. No surprise to anyone who's watched them performing this season, but definitely one that we didn't see coming in this manner. I guess to start with you, Matthew, how do you kind of sum up their time as managers of their respective clubs?
Well, Gary O'Neill, I get the sense he's taking this club as far as he can. I was watching aftermath, the reaction to the match of the day, especially after the game against Ipswich, where it all went to hell. He changed the captaincy of his team. You know, he's fighting a losing battle, like two very bad ends, you know, after results that haven't necessarily gone your way. And you can just see obviously with beef with the ownership as well, but you could just see in the way that he was talking, whereas like he knew something, whereas like something's been said by the board, or deep down he knows he probably losing the players, and it's just like, you know what? He's like he distanced himself. He's like, he kept saying them and me, or not us. He was like, it's me now, you know. If I get sacked in the morning, if I get sacked the next day, I'm expecting it. I've tried really hard, you know. He kept them up for like 1 or 2 seasons, despite the fact that there's been like other clubs that's coming in and picking their players left, right, and centre. And not just any of their players, they're good players. They're players that, you know, made a difference. I mean, the consistent top half finishes, the push for Europe, you know, a few seasons ago when they came up. You know, they're a great addition because how their club run, and they kind of basically play football manager with this team. They're a long, long way from that, and they just haven't done. They haven't done what a Brighton would have done, where they replaced their players on a consistent basis, like a cycle. They've let go of all their players. Funny enough, they've done old school Southampton. Remember when Southampton were like mid to like almost fighting for Europe sort of thing?
Yeah.
But every single time, and eventually, it got too much for them and Southampton and Wolves, and you know the manager had to go. And when considering it's December, we've got 5 months left of the season. They're looking down. They're looking down at the moment. They are really looking down. So it's a shame for Wolves and it's a shame for Gary O'Neill. He tried really hard, but eventually it just came to a head. And I think that you can see after both the games, the players discipline their heads. They've all gone, but they know they're in the crap. They know they're in the crap. And as for Southampton, they're just crap.
Let's go on Southampton more with you, Craig. I think that it's just I always find it fascinating, and it's one of the things we've talked about a lot about previous teams that have come up and having your identity and trying to play your way in the Premier League the way you did in the Championship, which works really well. We've seen it last season with Luton unsuccessfully. We've seen it in the past with teams like Bournemouth successfully. We've seen it when Leicester came up. We've seen it with teams like Brighton when they came up. We've seen teams that have been able to take their style of play, bring it to the Premier League, modify it slightly. I think about Leeds as well when they came up. And it worked, obviously, for Leeds, not longer term, but it did work for a period of time. Southampton right now are bottom of the table on 5 points, and they need help. They need something to kind of spark their season into life. And then obviously they've decided to move the manager on. Like, what's your kind of perspective on it? Obviously, you've heard Matthew talk about Wolves and how things kind of went for them, but what's your view on Southampton?
I feel like in the summer when they came to the Premier League, they didn't really spend a lot of money on players. They brought in Ramsdale from Arsenal. They mostly got a Championship team that came up last season. Let's be real. Let's be honest. They came up with a Championship team, and I feel that like some of the errors they were making this season in the Premier League, like against Liverpool, for example, the goalkeeper giving the ball, rolling the ball to him and just running the ball, Salah's running and scoring a goal. He had certain games this season when they could have won games, but they're just a bit naive and not. I understand what the manager was trying to do. He wanted to play at the back, but he didn't have the players. You're not Arsenal, you're not Chelsea, you're not Man United, you're not Man City. You can do that. You can play the ball out the back and get away with it. You got to remember, like in the Premier League, you make one mistake in the Premier League, you get punished. In the Championship, maybe you can get away with it. You can do a little mistake here and there, you might get away with it. But in the Premier League, more times than one, you got more world-class players in the Premier League, and you make a mistake, it will cost you the game. And I feel this season, Southampton have not learned from their mistakes they've made. Against United, they made a mistake. Against us, they made a mistake. Against all the teams they made mistakes against, they've been punished. So I feel Russell Martin he'll learn from this as a manager. He'll learn from this as a manager. He'll learn that, you know, I took them up from the playoffs and I did, you know what I mean, and I got into the Premier League. He'll learn that if he gets another job again and he gets him back to the Premier League, he'll learn from the mistakes he made at Southampton. And he has to learn very quickly. He's a young manager, so he's not old man. He's a very young manager. So him and Gary O'Neill, you know, unlucky they lost their jobs, but that's the way of football is nowadays. It's a results business. If you don't get your results right, you'll lose your job.
What would you think is the biggest lesson that Russell Martin needs to learn from his time at Southampton? Or what do you think? Where do you think they went wrong this year?
I would say recruitment, number one. And number two, like, you have to playing out of the back was a big mistake. I know he wanted to do it, but if you don't have the players to do it, you can't do it. And I feel that against the bigger teams in the Premier League, he was trying to out football them. You have to just play a certain way just to try and, like, if you look at Ipswich, for example, how Ipswich went to Tottenham and beat them. They have a style of football, but their style of football is they're more attacking, but they can defend as well. I thought with Southampton this season they can't defend, and they've rotated their goalkeeper so many times, and it hasn't worked out. So I thought what you needed to do was against the big teams, go out there and just be solid. Be solid against the big teams, and against the small teams that you know you can grab, like your relegation 6-pointers, you can do your play well from the back and whatever and go and win the game. But against the big teams, you can't do that. And every time they did it against the big teams, they got punished.
Yeah.
So that's a lesson he has to learn, and I think that he'll learn as a man. He'll become a better manager. I'll back him to be a better manager in the future. He got an experience of working in the Premier League for a couple of months, so he'll learn from it and he'll become a better manager.
I hope so for his sake, and I hope so for Southampton. They can turn things around. I mean, they're a club who historically have produced some great players. They know what it takes to be at the top table, and obviously getting promoted last season was great for them, being back in the big time, winning the Championship playoff. But then it's been a really, really tough lesson. And I know I read some comments online that they felt that some people felt the manager was being a bit selfish and almost going down the route of protecting his potential future prospects of new employers rather than doing what's right for the team. What's your thought on that take? Because a lot of people look at Vinny Kompany at Burnley last season, wasn't really working out with the football, didn't really have the players to play they wanted to play, but he stuck with it. He's now got a Bayern Munich job. That season's been a bit mixed, but he's got a job at a big club. Do you feel like that's a similar path Russell Martin's taken, and do you think that critique is valid, or do you think it's more of an unfair assessment of him?
Well, he got them promoted. Regardless of how I feel about them having a god awful season so far, you know, they got promoted against the odds. Everyone had Leeds beating them in the final, and yet they're the ones that won. It would have been, I think, after the first few games, you would have realised that, you know, okay, my pathway to a quote unquote bigger club ain't working. Let's see what I can work with here. Let's see if I can get something where I can playing decent football, and above all, your priority coming to the Premier League for the first time is survival. Your first thing, even if you finish a point outside those relegation points in 17th, that's your goal made, is survival. And like we said, Southampton is a foundry for talent over the years, producing, you know, Letizier's, Shearer's, Walcott's, Bales. You know, they're a club that have produced big time talent, but don't necessarily stay, but they know where they came from. But you know, there's nothing wrong with having a little bit of ambition. There's nothing wrong with that. But the proof is in the pudding. We're all seen it in the games where they've actually been caught out, especially at home, by the likes of Bournemouth, by Spurs, by like some of the bigger teams, which granted they actually did not too bad. Man City, they were in it. Liverpool, they gave it. Even when they went to the Emirates, they scored first.
That's right.
They scored first. And I remember watching that game. They scored first, and then they threw it away again. They got a goal against Chelsea. So clearly against the big teams, there was a small something there. But, you know, the guy has ambitions. He sees himself being, you know, I don't know. If they get relegated, it's a bit of a shoddy move. If they get relegated, it's a bit of a shoddy move. So criticism might be a little bit more warranted there, from other fans, and especially from the Southampton fans, because it just looks like a bit of a stepping stone. It's bad enough that over the years talent's been taken from them, but being rejected from a manager that did so poorly, but the football didn't work, and he was so stubborn in sticking with it. And what do the players feel about all this? Then yeah, so on one hand, yeah, I do get having loftier ambitions. If they get relegated, it's a shoddy move.
I have to say this though, just looking at Southampton's 16 games this season, they were only out of the bottom 3 in the first 2 games of the season. They were 16th in the first game of the season, lost 1-0 to Newcastle. Second game of the season, they lost 1-0 at home, Nottingham Forest. And then from game week 3, or from match 3, they have been in the bottom 3. And they have not left it.
Wow.
The highest place they got was 18th, and that was in match day 5 when they drew against Ipswich 1-1. And they have not lifted above 19th. Well, they've not lifted out of the bottom 3 since then.
Looking good.
So that's not looking good. Wolves, on the other hand, they've been a bit mixed. So they managed to climb out of the bottom 3 on game week 12 when they beat Fulham 4-1. And I think that was the match when because they'd won 2 on the bounce, because they'd had the draw. They had 2 draws in a row. Draw against Brighton on game week 9, and they drew against Crystal Palace at home in game week 10. Then they beat Southampton 2-0, and then they went on to beat Fulham 4-1. And you felt like Wolves have turned a corner. And then they got smashed by Bournemouth 4-2. And then they got beat by Everton 4-0. And I think the Everton defeat, that's probably the one where the ownership felt like it's time to move on.
Yeah.
Then they lost 2-1 to West Ham, El Sacco, as we said. And then that finally succumbed to Ipswich 2-1. I think those results don't help. Especially results against teams that are around where you are and teams where you think that they'd want to compete with. So look at literally those run of games. Bournemouth having a great season. Obviously, they are high up in the league. But traditionally, Bournemouth, Everton, West Ham, with how they've been the last few seasons, those are teams they'd need to get points off, because they're the teams that they'll think they'll be in and around that same kind of relegation spot. But unfortunately for Wolves, they weren't able to pull it off and down. And right now they're in a very precarious position. They are on 9 points. The team in 17th, which is Leicester, on 14 points. Everton are on 15 points above that. So they need to start getting wins fast. And the next game is Leicester. And we'll get to our predictions at the end, and we'll see what we think. That's how that's going to go. But it's a lot of hard work. Southampton's next game is against Fulham away. Fulham, who are high flying. But both those teams need to start picking up points quick, because if you end December on less than 10 points, my friend, I find it very difficult to survive at that point. Not saying it can't be done, because it can, but I think at that point, especially if Ipswich start picking up more points, because Ipswich are on 12 points and they're in the bottom 3. Yeah. But they're on 12 points, 1 win away from getting out. 2 good results now out of the bottom 3. So you don't want, what Wolves and Southampton don't want is Ipswich, Leicester, Everton to start pulling away from them. Because if those teams start going on a little run, it might be over before we even can blink. So a lot of work to be done there. Great shame for them. But we're going to move on to the Manchester derby. A very interesting game. I fell asleep during it. I was very bored. And I thought Man United had no hope of heaven, of getting anything out of this match. But Ahmad decided that he's the man. Captain Phillips style. I'm the captain now. Word to Erling Haaland. Stay humble, eh? Craig, thoughts on the game?
It was a very boring game. But I felt like in the first half, I thought it's like watching 2 boxers at the end of their careers just throwing jabs at each other to see who can knock out the person first. And it was like it both end to end. And I felt that this game's going to be so boring. But then it came to life. City went in the front in the first half, wasn't it? Yeah, they went in front from the header. It was a mistake from Hodgland, and I think Dada were not marking properly, and then I think who scored the header? It was Guardiola scored the header, and then after that it went to half time 1-0 up. I don't know what Amarin said to the players at half time, but it seemed to rejuvenate United in the second half. United looked more like they were pushing. Ahmad, who for me was man of the match, best player on the pitch, just kept on pushing. He was offside a couple of times here and there, but then he got his chance. He got the penalty, and Bruno put it away. And the winner, it's like Roy and the Rovers moment. Like, he got the winner, won the game for the team. Everyone was happy. He was happy. His first derby goal, you know. And I think the United fans were absolutely ecstatic. And obviously Rashford and Garnacho got dropped for the game, but I honestly thought that he had a great game. I thought that, you know, it goes to show that it's always good to give faith in the young players, give them a chance. They're hungry, they're willing to learn. He's been a good player for a while now, not this season. Like, he did so well on loan at Sunderland. I remember that loan this way at Sunderland. He was ripping up the Championship, and it decided that a new manager came in and said, you know what, I'm gonna give this guy a chance. Gave him a chance, and he's done the business for the team. So you got to give him hats off to Almiron and for giving him a chance. But Man City, I don't know what's happened to them. They look like lost. They look lost.
What's your thoughts, Matthew, on Man City?
I think that it's not down to the injuries. There's something. I was having a chat with this yesterday. Thank God, watching the last 10 minutes of the game because I couldn't acknowledge the rest of the game. So boring. Then live up until about the 80th minute after the penalty. I think I'm going to get a bit thing here, but with those charges, because it came through, but the decisions come through, and Wenger knows something in the spring. They know something that we don't. Now, obviously, they do. The verdicts come through. So I think a lot of them are. When you have an uncertainty in the team, especially a big team, it's very telling. It's very obvious that something's going on. Chelsea a couple of years ago with the whole Roman Abramovich thing, you see what happened. We went from a team that were fighting potentially for the Premier League. The moment it was announced that Roman was coming out and leaving and selling the club, we wobbled for potentially a whole season and a half, to the point that we're finishing third to finishing 12th and having 3 managers in the season. Like, very poor form. Something's happened, something on here, off the pitch. Something's been said to these players where they've got really, really rattled. But you can also look at the fact that, yes, they got a lot of whole-mounting injuries, but a lot of their players are aging. And a lot of their players are aging. And you have to remember how the relentless kind of football that they've been playing, and they haven't necessarily been replaced. Look how long someone like De Bruyne has been out. De Bruyne is normally the go-to guy for playing every game of the season. And he's a shadow of himself since a really bad injury. Rodri's he's obviously been out. Haaland, he ain't firing. Something's going on with him. Foden, ever since last year, getting them, was it Young Player of the Year? Was it last year? Mm-hmm. Again, where is he? Not for England, not for City. He's not showing up. Kyle Walker, we mentioned last time against Spurs, completely out-dragged by Timo Werner. He's not and look at the antics he did with, what was it?
Højlund.
Was Højlund again?
Yeah.
Not something you'd expect from an experienced, one of the best right backs England has to offer. So they're losing their heads, they're losing their cool. If Pep had hair, you'd see little strands coming out. Like, to see, the guys a guy that's so put together, and you see the hair slowly leaving because he must be losing his mind. Probably has grown hair, he just keeps ripping it out. Something's going on. And just like even Ederson making those making like silly little mistakes, not being brave in the running. Come with Ahmad. Ahmad's not a big guy, but he makes that determined run. And you know what? Ahmad is a kind of player that Man U kind of thrive on. He kind of reminds me of a player that Fergie would like, where he just keeps on going.
I agree.
He didn't quit. That second goal, better players will look at that and thought, nah. But he kept on going. He just said, let me just do it. Let me just put my foot in it. I'll see what happens. And he goes under 2 players' legs and finds his way, and they hold off for the rest of the game. City have, and they haven't been, they've only won 1 game in the last 8 in all competitions. 3-0 up, 3-3. Like, something with this club is, don't get me wrong, I'm here for it. I'm happy, I'm here for it. It mixes things up for the season big time. But something's up with this club. So until in the spring, when we find out what this is exactly, I don't know. Are a lot of players jumping ship? Or a lot of players looking around being like, I don't want to be a part of this whole thing. I want to, move on up. They put on Jack Grealish to make a bit of difference, but it did make a difference. They lost.
You know what you can also put it down to? I remember I was hearing about this a couple years ago, this theory about, elite performers when you're used to winning a lot. And then what happens when you lose one fight? You lose a match. It knocks you for 6. You look at Anthony Joshua and these attempts to come back to the big time. Look at how many fights he's had and not won. and been beaten by people. Look at and it all stemmed from the Ruiz fight. That's the one when it's like the invincibility of Joshua got knocked away. And then you had Joseph Parker where you had to really work to get that one. But then from Ruiz, he's never really recovered that invincibility. People look at him and think, I can beat him. Dubois beat him, bad. Usyk beat him, bad. You ain't had the Fury fight, and we ain't had the Deontay Wilder fight anymore now. The invincibility of Joshua is, and it's not to say Joshua can't come back and make it, but there's something that's been chipped away at him. I look at Man City this season, and I know they've got injuries. I know, like you're right in saying that they're an older squad now, but it feels like that invincibility has been chipped away at them. Teams are looking at them now and are thinking, we can get points off these guys. Before the matches, used to losing the tunnel. We can think of numerous games the last 2 seasons where teams have not even tried. Teams like Southampton, teams like, let me not even go through them teams that would put up a fight against them, and then when they play against when they play against Man City, they'll just be like, okay, go ahead, get your win. They play against our teams, they put up a fight, and yet they're really struggling. Okay, what's your view on the struggles in the blue half of Manchester?
You know what they say about eras and like dominance? Pep has dominated the Premier League for how long? To be there, 6-8 years now, isn't it? It's been there for a long time. That's it for a long time. You see with eras, like you see, like back in the 90s, you had the Chicago Bulls that were winning multiple titles every year. And then after Michael Jordan and guys left, they went through a pitfall. I feel like every era has a dominance, and it just goes. You have an era where you win everything, and after a while, it just goes down. I think with City at the moment, what I think is the problem is now, as Matthew said as well, that they have an aging squad, and they never really made any major signs in the summer. They bought Savinho in, that's about it. And Gundogan came in as well in the summer.
They let go of Julian Alvarez, didn't replace him.
So that means Haaland's going to end up playing so many games this season. He's going to play almost all their games, and I think for example, when Sir Alex Ferguson used to win Premier League titles United, every season he used to refresh the squad. He would refresh the squad. Every season he win the title, he would refresh the squad. He knows when the teams need to refresh and whatever, rejig and whatever. The same with Arsene Wenger as Arsenal manager as well. When Arsenal used to win titles and all that, he used to rejig the squad here and there, get rid of a few players here and there, replace them with younger players, and try and see if we can build another title-winning team. I think Guardiola came into this season thinking, you know what? We're all right. We're going to win the league again this season. He underestimated the other teams in the league. I think he underestimated thinking, and I think all these charges as well are coming against City. I think he said, no, we can't spend any more money right now because if the charges come, what's going to happen to the players and whatever, if they end up, whatever happened to them. So a lot of players will think, that's what I thought Alvarez was a very good player for City. A very, very good player for Man City. He scored some very crucial goals for Man City, and he won everything at City. He won everything in England. And he was looking at it thinking, I want to play regular football. He was Haaland's understudy, and if he wanted to play, he wanted to be his own man.
In a way, it's almost a shame that he didn't join Man City when Aguero was still the main striker. Yeah. I think Alvarez in that Man City team would make more sense, like Jesus was, so he could rotate with him.
Yeah. And I thought that, like, obviously he left on to Atletico, is doing quite well. Atletico scored the other day in the Champions League. So I only feel that, like, Man City didn't really replace a lot of their players. Kyle Walker's getting old. De Bruyne's getting old. Like, the goalkeeper is not the same goalkeeper he was a couple of seasons ago. He's making a lot of mistakes now. He's been rotated he's been dropped a couple of games. Diaz has been injured a lot this season as well. So there's been a lot of, like, they've not had a steady back four this season, or back three, or how they want to play. Rodri got injured at the start of the season. So they're all reliant on this pep ball. And maybe the players are fed up hearing his voice. It could be that as well. When you have someone barking the same orders all the time, demanding, after a while you get tired of that voice all the time. So I feel that maybe they just need a change of voice. Maybe they just need a whole refresh. Maybe you need to revamp the whole squad and start bringing in. But the academy, they've got so much good academy players, Man City. People don't realise they've got so many academy players are playing in the Premier League right now. Morgan Rogers playing for Aston Villa. You've got Cole Palmer playing for
Chelsea.
You've got Lavia playing for Chelsea as well, ex-Man City player. You got Jeremy Frimpong playing for Leverkusen, ex-City player. So they've got good young players that they had in the past.
Liam Delap as well up front.
That's what I'm saying.
Ipswich, yeah.
So they've got a lot of good young players that they let go of, and thought maybe we sell them and we get a big profit for them. A lot of them could be doing a job for this team right now. You know what I mean? They could be doing a job right now in this team. So maybe they looked at the recruit and they lost a lot of their executive went to Man United. Jason Walcott went to United. The other guy went to United as well. So they lost a lot of their staff, moved on as well. So yeah, a lot of changes have happened.
On the note of the younger players, because I know that's been a criticism leveled at Guardiola throughout all of the clubs he's been at, barring Barcelona, because you had that team was made up of mostly academy products, so you don't really have to argue. But you look at his time at Bayern Munich, didn't really bring through that many young players. A couple here and there, but not that many. His time at Man City to date, I mean, outside of Phil Foden, now you can say Rico Lewis. Are there any other youth players that he's brought into the first team that's become a mainstay? There's those that are there and thereabout, like Oscar Bob, but Palmer wasn't really given a fair chance. And I really do think his pre-season last year at Man City, I really felt he's going to take Mahrez's spot. I think I said it on a podcast, like he looked so sharp. And I was shocked to see he's gone to Chelsea. I'm just like, why? Obviously, it makes sense because he got the platform to perform, but it made no sense to me why Man City sold him on. But like, can you think of players, Matthew? And do you think that's a fair criticism to say that in his time at Man City hasn't really given an effective pathway to young players in their academy?
It's hard to mention any of those ones we just mentioned because for what it is, he's always had an access to that cookie jar to go and get the players that he needs. And those players would go in and put in an absolute shift over the years because they believed in what they were doing, because they were dominant, because they were used to winning, because very few teams were able to come up against them and do anything. He had his loyalists. He had his big time loyalists when he was at the club. And if he didn't fit the program, it was so easy for him to replace you. Like someone like Sane, see you later, bye. We're better off without you, we don't miss you at all. Which does put, for the young players, especially for them, it just means that they're not his... Have any of you seen the movie Whiplash?
Yes.
Not his tempo.
Got you.
And that's what it is. He strives me as, and he's not the only one. I think a lot of the managers like that. I think Mourinho will probably be guilty of that as well. If you're not part of their tempo, they will make you know. They'll let you know that you're not part of their tempo. And no matter what they do, even if you tell them what to do and they do it well, they'll switch it up and be like, no, I want this now. So possibly, yeah, he's put on a bit of a barrier to a lot of young players because, quite frankly, he didn't. Not to be rude, he didn't need them. He didn't need them, and that was, 6-7 years ago when he first came round, because he spent a bumper a lot of money there as well, and they started gaining that success on all these players. Granted, he probably didn't need them. He also inherited a good squad as well. But look at how football's changed in the last 5 years. More sustainability, more promise of talent, that, not guaranteeing it, but giving them a chance to thrive. Send them out to clubs where they're guaranteed to start. Maybe that's a program that he hasn't really adjusted to until recently, with the likes of, especially with Rico Lewis just starting much more frequently now, and more recently Oscar Bob as well. So it's something that he's had to get used to. But what he doesn't realize is there's a risk factor when you have these players, because they're not going to be mad experienced, but that's the reason why they're there, is to get that experience. But how you run your club with winning all these trophies, challenging on all those kind of fronts, it puts a lot of strain on them. So they need to realize that, you're going to work hard. So he needs to. It's about adapting to the change. The way that we look at football now has changed. So, it might do him well to give him such a chance. They're an unproven product. They're going to be very raw. They're going to be unpredictable, because what they're doing right now, playing the established lot, ain't working. It's not working.
True. He's got to shift something up for their sake. I mean, for the rest of us, we don't mind keep wallowing and keep struggling. But all in all, good weekend for the teams in red. Well, almost all the teams in red. We'll start off with one of the teams in blue that are having a really great year, and that, of course, is Chelsea. Now 2 points behind Liverpool. I know Maresca is saying that you're not in a title race, but I'm not having it. You are in a title race. You've been in a title race since you started spending money with Todd Bowley and the other guy. So, yeah, 2 points, small gap. You've won 5 and 5. looking very sharp, doing it in style as well. How do you feel going into this?
Chill guy. You know that chill guy meme? I'm just a chill guy, man. Talking about no title race and just enjoying the game. I'm just a chill guy, enjoying the games as it goes along. I mean, I must say that Enzo's playing it very, very well, because even after the game, he said, you don't win championships conceding the goals like we did yesterday, which, to be fair, he's right about. So in his mind, he probably does think that we are in title race, but also at the same time, it's like he's always looking for moments where we can get better. Same thing with the Spurs game, big improvements there. Granted, we won, but we only just won. And even the game against Southampton, he'd be looking at that game thinking, again, they scored again, goals like that. You don't concede if you're going to try for a championship. Looking for improvements there, but the players that I was doubted, put a lot of doubt on, like especially like with Enzo Fernandez, he's now, I mean, unfortunately, you know, with a divorce coming through, it's clearly his focus is now like next level. He's now on the game. I mean, hopefully back in his personal life, he's able to get over, you know, more, make it better for him and all parties concerned.
Just remember, he's the one that walked out.
He did walk out. I ain't saying all parties concerned, but he's doing it on the pitch. Maybe it's a distraction he needs. I don't know. I ain't got a clue.
That statement that got put out about that situation was just mad. I'm like, the guy wants to explore. Anyway,
but he's doing on. It's on the pitch. Cucurella, he's a polar.
He's not Sideshow Bob anymore, is he?
He's not Sideshow Bob anymore. You know, he's having fun, maybe a bit too much fun. He gets a great goal. He's great for me. Enzo's really found something great out of him. The first season, really at odds. Then little by little, even Pochettino found something in him, and now Enzo's improved on that as well. Nicholas Jackson back in on a great goal for the second goal. Really, really good finish. Like not an easy angle. Hell, even Sanchez. This guy is bipolar Marmite. Not bipolar and not bipolar or Marmite. He's bipolar Marmite. He's both. Because for every flap he has, he had a great save against literally like fingertip over the bar. Like what this guy. He's slowly getting a little bit better, but with his feet, I don't like him with his feet, because he just gives away too many goals when he just has his feet for too long. He's a good shot stopper, very good shot stopper, and he's slowly becoming a bit more brave and commanding in the box. Caicedo, again, people talk about Cole Palmer doing his thing, but there's something about these like short central midfielders, these short black central midfielders that Chelsea just do with Makelele, Caicedo's next. There's something about him we just get right, and little by little now he's slowly showing why all these clubs were after him. He's really, really coming into his own, commanding that kind of midfield. So I feel much better him being there. He played on the right back a couple of games ago. I was like, what? But he can play there. But no, I'm just a chill guy about it right now. Just win every game. Take every game as it comes. Liverpool got, all right, with 2 points behind. They got a game in hand. You know, but they dropped points again against Fulham. So, man, just enjoying the ride. Come March, I'll be way more serious. Okay. Way more serious. February, March, we'll get your verdict on where you're at. Get more serious.
What I do find interesting with your team is that you've got one half of the pitch definitely sorted out and working really well. Their attack, they've got 37 goals this season. But at the back, that's where the problems are. So you've conceded 19 goals this year. Liverpool, by comparison, have scored 31, conceded 13. Arsenal have scored 29, conceded 15. Nottingham Forest, who are in fourth right now, have scored 21, conceded 19. How on earth they're still in fourth, I don't know, but that's something. And then Man City, who are having the worst season I think they've had in a long time, they have scored 28 goals, conceded 23.
Wow.
Why they're in fifth.
Not like them.
So I think you've definitely got the forward line working, but that 19 goals conceded, that to me is an area which, if you don't address it properly and get it working right, it's going to be a problem. How bad do you think the leakiness of their defense is, Craig? Because the thing with you, Chelsea, is they're winning games, but when you watch those games back, it could easily go the other way. Easily go the other way, except for the Spurs one. Except for Southampton and Aston Villa games. But all the other ones could have gone either way.
Well, they have I did say a couple of weeks ago that they need to sort the defence, the goalkeeper and centre. I think they haven't really got a top class centre back. I think Matthew would agree on that as well. I think they've got good attacking players that will get into any of the other top teams in the Premier League. But when it comes to defence, I think the defence is a bit weak. Like Colwell's still learning the game. He needs someone like a Thiago Silva, like as experienced centre back next to him, someone who can getting through games and all that. Reece James has been injured a lot this season, so he's very unreliable when he's fit. He only can play maybe one game a week. Cucurella's done well for you guys as well. He's done very well for you guys recently as well. But I just feel that, like, if you guys say you're going to challenge for the title, it might come down to defense, It might come down to defense. Because now you're doing well now, but when it comes to the crucial games of the second half of the season, when you play a Liverpool like Stamford Bridge, for example, it'll be attack versus defense. And if their attack is better than your defense, they can go win the game. So, and if you play against, and I know Man City are not going to be as poor as they are now, that by the next second half of the season, you've got to play them as well. They still got to play us in the Emirates coming in the second half of the season. They still got to play United. They still got to play Man City. Man United are rejuvenated under.
Amarim, yeah.
So them getting Newcastle as well. So them type of games where you're not going to play as a hard team, you guys your defense is going to have to hold it off in certain minutes. You might score a lot of goals, and if you concede a lot of goals like you did against Tottenham, then you know what I mean. You need to balance it out, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes.
Definitely going to see how it goes. I think Enzo's definitely got Chelsea moving in the right direction. You're doing what you need to do. I think the ownership should be happy. I think Jonathan Mikel should be happy too. He was at the game. Saw was it Egbali, the other owner. So they had a good little chat. So hopefully Nicholas Jackson saw him afterwards and had a little word together. I take my name out of your mouth, bro. Anyway, but that's definitely been a good move for them. We'll move over to Arsenal. Been a bit of a rocky period of late, not quite firing on all cylinders. That's 2 draws in a row in games that we really should have got 6 points from if we're really about it this year. And I don't really know if we are about it this year. But, Mikel has got to figure it out and fast, because we can't let another season go and not make a proper effort for the league. And the annoying thing is we're still there. We're 6 points off Liverpool. We're 4 points behind Chelsea. We're not out of it. Even Man City are not out of it. They're 9 points off Liverpool, but they're not out of it yet, as far as I'm concerned. They are very close to being out of contention. If they lose their next 2 games, before the end of this year, I would say Man City are done. But I still think they could just go on one of those disgusting runs.
Isn't it?
They got it in them. They have it in them.
But Arsenal need to find that energy and fast. Next game's Crystal Palace. For live predictions later. But Matthew, what's your perspective on another board draw from Arsenal?
So you know how you just said defenses win leagues? Goals win leagues. And I said from a long time that Kai Havertz, as good as he is, he's not the striking option. We tried it. I think other people tried it. He's how many goals has he got so far? Not a lot.
He's 10.
He's in double D at 10. He's our top goal scorer this season.
Yeah, top goal scorer, and that's great. But you'll also need for the title at least 1 or 2 other players around him that are also producing that same sort of thing. Granted, you got someone like Saka, which is also very, very good. But you also need where Martinelli needs to be putting it out. Gabriel Jesus needs to be putting it out. If you want to make a charge for that league, like you said, you're only 4 points off.
6
points off
them, 4 off you.
4 off our 6, and granted they still got that game in hand. You need to be getting some goals, because the memes are going out as calling you the new Stoke City, and I know it's got to be bothering you guys.
Bother me at all.
Yeah, because you're going from hating Stoke to potentially people mocking that you're playing like Stoke. I don't know. Your corners are very good. You clearly you got your corners very, very good, but you're always famous for creating it all on the field, like the slick passing, the this, the that, the quickness, the speed. And you need a striker that's going to match into that and play and do well with that. And you owe it to yourselves, for this title challenge, you owe it to yourselves to go in and actually go out there and get that guy in January that can possibly do the job. I know it kind of goes against the philosophy of you spending that money and doing that, but look at it this way. Virgil van Dijk came in January, and the rest, he said, granted, he didn't win it the first time. That very year, they got to a Champions League final. And then the year after that, they eventually won the Champions League. I mean, there are other great January transfers where they do really, really well. It's a risky move, but you said yourself, none of the big clubs out there made that. They didn't make many big signings. Maybe you can make up for lost time of doing that. January is 2 weeks away. So I wouldn't be surprised if someone on your board are looking at a striker where it's like, this could be the person that's going to add to the 10 goals from Kai, the how many goals and assists from Saka, and come on as a 3-prong attack that's going to come up and actually deal with these defenses that think they can get better from us, as well as getting goals from our corners, from our big old defenders, Saliba and Gabriel getting in on the action as well. I don't. From your bombastic time where you had that first title shot 2 years ago, you then go move on to a little bit more efficiency to the point where you're only 2 points off the winners last year. It kind of feels like you've tilted a bit too far that way, where you've lost that kind of electricity and that fire to go out there and just create something magic and just to pull something out of the hat. You know what I mean? I think that's what you need to be looking more at, and then these draws. But then again, take nothing. Everton defended very, very well. Jordan Pickford had a really, really good game, rare in the Everton shirt. Really, really good. But for your next few games, but that game's gone. For your next few games, you need to find someone where that extra striking option, or extra goal option, you need to find out who that person is going to be.
Yeah, we need to find it and find it fast. I guess for you, Craig, how do you sum up this time of Arsenal late?
Frustrating. At home against Everton, should be beating them at home. Away against Fulham, should be winning at Fulham. And then Fulham have done well this season. They have done well against the big boys this season. Like, they got points off us, points off from Liverpool. They're playing very good football. So I just feel that we just need a striker who can score goals. Like Jesus, I watched Jesus against Monaco the other day. Missed 2 simple chances, so scored through one on the goalkeeper, missed both of them. Havertz as well, as Matthew said, he's very. When he's good, he's good. When he's not good, it's non-existent. And I thought that we've known in the summer we needed a striker. We got rid of Nketiah. We didn't bring anybody in. Like, I thought we were going to need a striker. And I think our left wingers are really stinking at the joint now. I've had enough now. I have to say how it is, because they're not doing their job, and we can't be relying on Saka every single game to bail us out. And that's what's happening. Every single game Arsenal score out of Saka scoring. We need some other players to step up. Odegaard missed a good chance again on Saturday when Marge Lewis Skelly played him through. Should have put it in the back of the net. The keepers went one way, the wall went wide. Overall, we need to start scoring more goals. I know last season we had the same problem, and then after we went to Dubai, until January, went to Dubai in December, when I went to Dubai, we came up, we started scoring goals for fun. If we need to do that again, I'm more than willing for us to do that again, but bring a striker in as well, and try and see if we can capitalise the second half of the season, because I don't want to go for another season without winning a trophy, because then I'm going to start questioning things, and I'm going to start saying, you know what, it's time, things have to change.
I think there definitely is a big conversation about the manager, not in terms of an Arteta in, Arteta out. I feel like that conversation, some can have it. He ain't going to get fired. So I think the reality is we need to look at what's working, what isn't working, and what are the patterns that we've noticed throughout his reign that still haven't been assessed. I think the thing that we can all agree, last year we scored the most, I think the last 2 seasons in a row, we scored the most amount of goals in Arsenal's history 2 years in a row. Last season was the most total Premier League goals scored ever for an Arsenal team in Premier League. That's under Arteta. Yeah. So I think on the one hand, that's amazing. I think what we can all say, you can say as well, Matthew, as well, looking compared to the 2022-23 season, we were a lot more dynamic, a lot more electric, a lot more fast in our way of creating chances and attacks. And we seem to be a lot more conservative and safe now than we were then. And that's something I think the team are losing out from, because we used to play fast football. We used to get at teams quickly, try and get goals quickly. We're not doing that as much right now. And I think that is a I don't agree with that adjustment that we've made in how the team sets up. And also I think there's players are not... I look at it, and Jorginho made a good point, because they're asking about the instructions for the wide plays. Are the wide players told to play a certain way? Because obviously you look at Martinelli and he's always hugging the touchline like it's his best friend. And Jorginho was like, no, the manager's not told the players to do that. And when you look at whenever Trossard comes on, or when Trossard starts, and Saka, they don't stay wide. They drift inside. They look to make space. I don't see Martinelli doing that anymore. I remember in that 2022-23 season, Martinelli would come off the wing, combine with Xhaka, and he'll be drifting inside. Jesus would go out to the wing to rotate. When is the last time you've seen Martinelli run in field?
He just stays wide.
He stays wide.
All
he
the
dribbles
time.
down the corridor. I really tried to dribble the ball past Ashley Young, and I was laughing. So I was like, yeah, Ashley Young's got that ball all day. It's just everything is slow, everything is safe. It's just he plays like he's got the handbrake on,
Yeah.
and we need him to take the handbrake off himself because there's a player there that Trossard when he comes on, he's very industrious. He's like floating around a little bit like back in the day, like how Rosicky would try and make things happen. The difference is there's not enough quality coming from him either. Rosicky when he come off the bench, he would make things happen. He would get on. One thing I used to love. And that's one player I really think that we need to find a way of reintegrating that kind of player into our team, which is one of the reasons why when Smith Rowe got sold, I felt a bit bittersweet because that's a guy that could do those little one-touch, two-touch passes and get things moving.
Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons why Sterling's lack of action looks more and more kind of weird now as time goes on because Trossard's out of form. Martinelli's form's in the toilet. You telling me Sterling couldn't come off the
I was about to
bench?
say that to you. I think Sterling needs to get some minutes now. I think it's about time over this Christmas period. We need to see some more Sterling. It can't be every game. When was the last game he played?
It would have been the Carabao.
When he set up on Ranieri
He got an
against
assist,
I think Champions League.
no the Premier
Champions
League, the Premier League game against who's that team he beat? I mean, it was a Premier League game and he set up on Ranieri. It was against who was it?
Was it West Ham? No, it wasn't West Ham, was it?
It was a home game and he set up Ranieri. Ranieri
Forest?
came off the bench.
What was it, Forest?
Was it Forest?
Beat Forest. Beat him well.
It might have been Forest.
Yeah, I think it was Forest. He just
Has he,
scored.
but he started. Like he
Yeah, he hasn't started. He only
Hasn't
started the
started a league
Carabao.
game yet,
He hasn't
no.
started the league game
It's
for
just
the season.
Carabao that he's gotten.
I want to see Stern on the left. I think if we can give him the confidence, he can do something. I know he went to Chelsea and it didn't work out for him at Chelsea, but this guy, like, out of all the players in our squad, this guy's won trophies. He's won a lot of trophies, not one or two. He's won a lot of
He won
trophies.
a lot of trophies.
And I feel like he could, show the other players in the team what. Not too long ago, he was England's best player in the Euros.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
He was England's best player in the Euros a couple of seasons ago. So you don't become a bad player overnight. As I said, form is temporary, class is permanent, as they say. And I think Sterling's the guy that could come, get him out the cold. Arteta, you worked him at City, give him a chance. Martin needs to be dropped. Trossard needs to be dropped. Give Sterling a start. And if it doesn't work out, everyone can say, "Well, Craig, you're wrong. See, it didn't work out. Why you said to stop?" But I want to see him give him a chance now.
We'll see if he tried.
I want to see him try.
I think he should start the 2 games against Palace.
I think so too.
I think that would make a lot of sense for me. Give him the start against those 2 games and then see what he can do.
I think he'll do so. He's got a point to prove.
Sterling.
I think he's got a point to prove because he must be frustrated on the bench thinking, I come to Arsenal to play minutes and I'm not getting no
I ain't
minutes.
getting nothing.
Yeah, because Arteta said it's not due to tactical reasons why he's not started. So then what does that mean?
That's what I'm saying.
So if it's not tactical reasons,
What is
clearly
it?
he's not doing enough in training to impress you. But I want to see him get a chance now. 30 years old. Let's put this loan to good use. And if it ain't gonna happen,
And cancel the loan.
then send him back to Chelsea and create problems for them.
No, stay. You can stay. It's fine.
Oh, you can go
I
back to Chelsea.
told you. We don't.
I like Sterling. I know you don't want him.
I don't
but
want
look,
him.
if it ain't working out for Arsenal, but let's just make a move and move him back. But I still think there's a guy there that I think there's 5 to 6 goals in him that could be crucial for this season. I just think even the game against Everton, that's a match where look at how the game was playing out against a low block. Think of how he was at Man City. That's the match where you think he could come on and make a difference. Yeah, he wasn't given a chance. So definitely one I think Arteta needs to revisit and think about for next time. What was your performance of the weekend, Matthew?
Performance of the weekend. So overall, it didn't work out for him, but it was one very key thing, and it all got hinged on one moment, and that was Emi Martinez's save against Forest, the little spin Rooney save. That was not performance, but that was probably like my moment of the weekend where he just spinned on the blade. How he did that, he'll probably never do that again. I can't explain how he did it. And the next minute, corner comes in, he drops a damn ball.
So Martinez.
Only Emi Martinez. But if we're talking about performance, this is one that kind of went under the radar a little bit because I know performance-wise the team weren't good. But there's one what's that Fulham guy's name? And both the goals came from him. They goals because of him. Things like
Benice?
Is it Robinson?
Anthony Robinson.
Yeah, he gave Liverpool some real problems because I think both the goals kind of came from him, and he was just so damn quick, so positive. And to go to Anfield, where you granted it wouldn't have been an easy win, but we're all expecting a win, and Liverpool only just came away with a draw, dropping points. I think for a little unknown quantity of performance, I think I was really impressed by it. Really, really impressed.
Craig, what's your performance of the weekend?
I have to say the Man United derby, Ahmed's performance for the weekend. I thought that was like, for a young player playing against like seasoned pros, to do what he did yesterday against like established internationals, fearless, and left two players who like left them out of the squad, and to then perform like that under big pressure. I think that was performance of the weekend for me. Ahmed's 2 goals against Man City, or the penalty and the goal. Yeah, I'll say him. I'll say him.
But I think that's very interesting. I want to talk about one player that didn't feature, and then we'll have your hot take, and then we'll do our predictions for the weekend. Marcus Rashford. There's a lot of talk in the press about what's going on. They asked Ruben Amorim why he didn't play, and he effectively dropped him because he didn't like his. I guess what he was giving him in training wasn't good enough, wasn't to standard. There's also some quotes coming out today about saying, this is from the Telegraph, it's a source connected to Man United, saying that you'd have a good chat with Rashford, but the next day it was like he went in one ear and out the other, and they said even though he's 27-year-old, he acts more like an 18-year-old. So he needs a lot of support and an arm around his shoulder, and it's just not really working out. It does feel like his time at Man United is slowly crashing to an end, something that I think you saw coming, Matthew, a while off, that it was time for him to move on. And obviously with Ahmad showing that there's definitely that's the level that Man United fans want to see. They've wanted him for a long time. It's a shame. But yeah, what's your take on just Rashford in general? Because again, it's just to kind of focus on that. Amorim wasn't happy with his general demeanour and effort and application at Carrington in the training ground, and that's why he was omitted from the squad. Big derby. The new managers come in, and Rashford hit the ground running really well, and like it just feels like he's just pissing away his career for no reason. And I don't understand why, at 27 years old, he's now not just buckling down. And I hope this is not like a character assassination, as you see happen with players sometimes. But Matthew, what's your view on Rashford's kind of demise at Manchester United?
This is not a time for him to leave. I do not know what will. I mean, the fact that you got dropped for effectively one of the biggest games of a Manchester club season, to not even feature, you weren't even on the bench or whatever, that's a big statement. And, you could look at it as a manager, throwing his weight around, but at the same time, Man City are on the wrong half of the table. They need to start getting back up where they feel like they should be, and he's making those kind of bold moves, being like, I'm going to take the flak if this doesn't work. And luckily for him, it did work. But look at how many chances this guy's had, Rashford's had. How many chances, how many different managers under, how many years, at one point he was England's prospect and things like that. And it just hasn't been enough. And you got a point, you got to cut it off and being like, how much can you say it's a club and it's the management and it's not necessarily the player? Look lately he was in America, he was in the States, where he's carrying himself like, for someone who's not able to do it on the pitch, he's sure fine off of it. So, maybe this might be come January, come summer, he might be called a case of cutting ties, doing the club both a massive favour. He can take that weight off of his head, and Man United don't have to worry about this player who should be leading their line, but's not doing it after how many years. Let him move on to greener pastures, where he chooses to go, which I think he will go. I have no idea. I don't know. But then again, he's shot himself in the foot, because potentially, look at you guys. If he was firing, if he has the ability to still fire, he's the kind of player you could look at and be like, there's a guy who can come in. We've done it with Welbeck. We can do it again with him to look and come on our line. Obviously, I don't know if he can do it now, the way that he's carrying himself. I'll be very surprised if he features for a top club in England ever again. I think his time is probably spent being abroad.
I think the question comes down to, would a change of environment lead to a change in application? You've seen it with players in the past when they move from one club to another. Different manager gets different tune out of them and they can get them firing. With Rashford, it's a very tough one, because as much as I rate him with his ability, I do think a Rashford that's highly motivated playing off the left-hand side would look very interesting. He's a guy that can make a chance on his own. There's a lot of positives to what he can do.
Yeah.
But it's just it just feels like there's so much baggage around him now that some of it I think is unfair. Some of it you can argue some of it feels a bit racially motivated. I don't want to go down that route because I feel like that can come across as a cop-out at times, but it does feel like some of this criticism labelled against him is a bit excessive. But I don't think he helps himself either.
No, he
I
doesn't.
really don't think he does. And sometimes it's little things. Like, he was at an NBA game the other day. He wasn't the only player there, and he's got all the chains on around his neck. And it's like, I get it. It's your off-season time. It's a break in the season. You can wear whatever you want, do whatever you want. But optics matter with people.
Yeah.
And when you're not playing well, like, you got grills in your mouth. You're wearing. It's little things, and I don't think it's right for that to be held against him. But maybe people looking at him, looking at people around him, and thinking, well, the friends you're hanging out with, the place you're going to. There was that thing we had his birthday party last season in Dublin,
Yep.
and like these are little things. It shouldn't be used to character assassinate him, but yet it is. And then you look and think, okay, then, but what are you doing on the pitch to then countenance that? Because you think of Man United players of old, players like Beckham, he was here, there, and everywhere, but it never failed to perform on the pitch. How many scandals did Cantona get into with fans and, not fans, but little instances here and there and everywhere, and yet on the pitch when it mattered most, delivered.
Yeah.
Even Ronaldo in his early days at Man United, he had crazy parties at his house and little things that happened, but then there came a point when he started delivering on the pitch. And I look at, you can think of Rooney. You can think of so many players that come through Old Trafford who have been brilliant, have had a moment where they've done some crazy stuff outside the pitch, which could have easily derailed their career at Man United. And yet, for the majority of them, they find a way to switch it back on and get firing, at least get on the pitch. You can't argue with them. And he's one that hasn't. And I do worry about him. But you, Craig, what do you think he needs to do now to what do you think's next for Rashford?
As Matthew said, I think he needs to change the scenery, because I feel like, he's been at United a long time. He's 27 years old. He's an academy boy. And I know deep down as a player, that must have hurt him yesterday, him being out of the squad for that big game against Man City. It must have burned him, hurt him hard, because he's a local boy. Like, Phil Foden's a local boy. And Markus a local Manchester lad. It means a lot. Derby matches like that mean a lot to both. It's a rivalry. It's a massive game. Your family, Man United fan, like Foden a Man City fan, so it's a big game. And him not playing, it must hurt him. But as you said, as both of you said, it comes to a time in your career when you have to realise what's more important. Is it football or outside of football? I feel too much distractions maybe in this outside of football is not making focus on this game. We don't know what's going on personally in his head. He could be going, because I honestly feel, I don't want to make any excuses for him, but ever since after the Euros, in last 2 years, 2021 Euros, I don't think him and Jordan Sancho, for example, have not been the same players. Yes, I know he had a 30-goal season, one after a couple years after that, but they're not really been that really been the same at all. They've been very, like Sancho went to United, everyone thought it would work out for him. Then he went to Dortmund on loan, did well last season. Now he's at Chelsea. Rashford has been at United. He's lost something. He's lost that hunger. And when you lose that hunger in football, it's very hard to get it back. It's very hard to get it back. You have to find something in your mind to say, you know what, I want to prove. And I think the fans as well, they used to love Rashford. When he first came onto the scene, they loved him.
Yeah.
The local boy came on against in the Europa League, scored 2 goals. Came on against Arsenal, scored 2 goals. He was the talk of the town. Came on scored his England debut. I remember he was doing so much big things, and I thought this guy could be the next best thing. I don't know if his manager's leaving or what's happened to him, but he has not sustained the level that his potential could have been, and that's a shame. Even Wayne Rooney said that he has not, application or whatever, is not the same when he first came into the scene. He was a humble young man. He wanted to win games, wanted to do it well. I don't know if he's been out-coached or he's not taking instructions.
I don't think he's been coached enough. I think his last best manager was Louis van Gaal.
That's what I think as well.
That was nearly 10 years ago.
Yeah. Because Louis van Gaal gave him a chance up front. He saw something in him. And Louis van Gaal was very good at young players. He had Patrick Clark, for example, at Ajax. He had a lot of young players back in the day. And look what these players did in their careers. I thought if he had Louis van Gaal for another 2 or 3 more years, his development would have been better. But it's up to him as well. It's up to him as well as a player. If he wants it so much, he has to prove to Ruben Amorim that I want to be in this team. I'm going to prove to you that I deserve to be back and fight for my place in this team. If not, then it's just a mutual parting of ways. And thank you very much for your time here. We move you on. We get someone else to replace you and move on. It'd be a shame if he moves on, but as Matthew said, I feel like he might need to move on now because he's 27 years old. He's gonna be 30 in a couple of years, and you don't want to look back in your career thinking, "What if? What could I have done more?" And I feel like right now it's getting to that stage, and we're thinking, "What if now?" Because if other players like Ahmad, who's only how old is Ahmad? 19. How old is he? Ahmad. I think he's
not old. He's young.
He's a young kid. If
You can tell that he's young.
if he's outperforming a player like Rashford, who should be the senior player, who should be showing he's
22.
young, a 22-year-old is outperforming a 27-year-old and showing that what he needs to do, then the manager has no choice. He can't play him. He can't play him. As simple as that. At the end of the day, he wants a performance of a player. And Ahmad fought from minute one to as long as on us getting the game or won the game for United yesterday. Rashford needs to get back to that level.
Man United, you think of the culture of Manchester United, you think of fighters. That's why, for the longest of times, right, for all the players that had like Ronaldo's, the Giggs, the Scholes, and this like that, sometimes it wasn't even necessarily down to players like that. Sometimes you had your John O'Shea's. Sometimes you had your Darren Fletcher's. Darren Fletcher wasn't that, skillfully gifted, but he fought.
That's true.
He was an absolute dog. He was a pit bull.
Yeah.
And sometimes that grit, determination got him goals, important goals. Now, I'm not saying that Ahmad is clearly a better player than he is, and even Rashford is a better player than he is. But the contrast is to someone like Ahmad in just that small exchange on the pitch yesterday, the fight he had for that goal to get both goals. And with Rashford, you see that is what they should aspire to be doing and should be doing. They're expecting that kind of fight because that's what's ingrained to be in Manchester United players. You want players that want to work hard on their game and be the best of the best and just keep on going. And it's no surprise that Cristiano Ronaldo was part of that scheme because he's still playing to this day at a high level. He still is.
Yeah. Well, before we get into the weekend's predictions, I got some quotes from Thierry Henry. He's live on Sky Sports doing their Monday Night Football. He had this to say about Arsenal's issues down the left-hand side. Gabriel Martinelli's best asset is pace, but he never uses it. When he's 1v1 and there's space in behind, he chooses the safe option and goes backwards. I would never do that. Then when Arsenal are in trouble, what do? They pass the ball to Bukayo Saka, and every team knows this.
That's what I said. I just said that.
Just goes to show. And I hope, those words are not used as a negative against Omri again. I hope if I'm Martinelli, I'm reading that. I'm literally Crystal Palace game. I know I said they should start Sterling.
Yeah.
I'm telling Arteta in training, boss, I want this one. Don't worry, I got something. I want this one. I want him to come in there and I want him to fight. What I want him to do, I want him to score the first goal. And I want him to do the Omri celebration of the corner flag. Not as a diss against him, but just almost to say, I heard you, boss. I heard you.
I acknowledge
I got you. Don't worry, I got you. I'm back. I ain't going nowhere. But we'll see.
I feel the problem is it's too comfortable. He knows if he has a poor game, he's going to play the next game anyway. Yeah. I think a lot of players in that team need a kicking their ass. A lot of them need to... No, I'm being serious. I'm being very serious. I think a lot of them are too comfortable. They have one poor game, and then they're going to start the next game. It's like same with like Man United example for Man United as well. Like a lot of the players that play poor one game, they're gonna play the next game. They know their place in the team is secure. With this new manager now, I think he's changing that culture now. So Arteta needs to be more ruthless with players. Like they're not performing, and he's been sticking out the drip for a while now. He's what? I'll give you a drop.
Okay.
I think that's what he needs, a go kicking, just to wake him up a bit.
Well, we'll see how that goes. Let's go on to our predictions for the weekend. So, obviously, ongoing right now is Bournemouth versus West Ham. Currently, it's 0-0, but things can always change. That's the fun thing with the Premier League. You just never know how it's going to go, but we love that. Saturday, we've got Aston Villa versus Man City as the early game at Villa Park. Matthew, what's your thoughts?
2-1 Villa.
Oh, Villa, another team for Man City. Craig?
I think Villa are going to win this one again.
I'm going to say Man City are going to get their first win back. Brentford versus Nottingham Forest at the G-Tech Community Stadium.
Brentford.
Brentford are good at home.
Their record at home. I'm working on Saturday. They always seem to do well there at home this season. Every time I work there, they're always winning. So I got to back them again, man.
All right. I think draw because Forest are flying, but we'll see.
Yeah, Brentford.
Ipswich versus Newcastle. Matthew, how do you see that one going? At Portman Road.
To be Ipswich, but I don't think it will. Newcastle are doing that for game against Leicester, gave them a lot of hope, so I think it's going to be Newcastle.
Newcastle, Craig?
Draw.
Ooh, I'm going to back Ipswich. Why not? They need to start pulling away from the other two scrubs at the bottom, so let them do that. West Ham versus Brighton. Matthew, how do you see that one going? Craig?
West Ham versus Brighton.
At London Stadium. Tough one to call.
Brighton need a win because they lost yesterday. They got battered at home against Palace. So I'm gonna say, you know what? I think I'm bounce back. I think Brighton needs to win. So I think Brighton are gonna win this one.
Let's throw this as a question to you then. If Southampton or West Ham, if West Ham decide to part ways with Lopetegui, as some people think will happen next, do you think they should make a move for Gary O'Neill?
It's near ex-Hammer. They need to play for West Ham, no?
He didn't.
Okay. He could do a job there. He kept two teams up in the Premier League. Did it with Bournemouth. Did it with Wolves.
Yeah,
But I don't know if that's the kind of profile manager they want to go for, though.
that's fair.
West Ham, they're gonna say they were European champions a couple of years ago. They're gonna want
name.
to hire caliber managers to come in and, you know.
Okay. On that note, then, do you think Southampton should go for him, and do you think he'll take the job considering he was at Portsmouth previously as a player?
It will be controversial, but it'll be a good career stake where he did it well. He did well at Portsmouth, and I think if they want to survive, he's the safest option. Purely just to survive, I would.
Okay. Crystal Palace versus Arsenal at Selhurst Park, the last game on Saturday.
I don't know what to call this one, man, because every time I say Arsenal going to win, they don't win recently, man.
So don't make a prediction then. I'm backing Arsenal to win.
Okay.
Back my boys.
I think it's going to be a draw. A score draw.
We need to win, so I'm backing my team. Hopefully, because we played them midweek anyway in the Carabao Cup, so we should dash 2 on their head top, 2 games back to back. To blow us down, scary. Everton versus Chelsea at Goodison Park.
You know what, yeah? Everton, over the years, Everton are giving Chelsea a rough ride in a couple of games. I know Chelsea have eaten a couple of times as well, but in some games, I remember there was one time when I think one of their managers got sacked, and I think it was Duncan Ferguson took over at the time, and they won. I don't remember that game.
Yeah, years back.
Yeah. I feel like Everton, they got a draw against us the other day. They're going to be up for that game, and they're looking over their shoulder as well, even though they're not too far away from the relegation. They need points as well, so it's going to be an interesting game. I think Dutch will come with the same formation they did against Arsenal, have low blocks, and Chelsea going to have to find a way to get past the low blocks. So if Chelsea don't have their A game on that day, that could be a draw. But I think Chelsea might win that anyway, but I think it'll be a draw if Chelsea don't have their A game against Everton.
It'll be a narrow win.
Yeah, I call it Chelsea win as well. Fulham versus Southampton.
Fulham win.
Southampton could be a shock. New lease of life.
What life?
Fine, Fulham 3-1.
What life? Leicester versus Wolves. Wolves are the one that I could see having a bounce back win. Southampton, I don't know. They seem like they're on the fall. I said with Tyler Dibbling. He's the best thing that's happened to Southampton this season. But anyway, Leicester versus Wolves.
Leicester versus Wolves.
It's a derby game as well.
Big derby game. Matthew, what's your thoughts?
This is going to be an exciting draw. Jamie Vardy's going to score, but Jamie Vardy's going to score also, I know.
I think Leicester going to win the Van Nistelrooy effect. I know he lost against Newcastle the other day, but I feel that he'll get Leicester firing after that game. They lost against Newcastle. I think Newcastle have that bounce. Leicester have that bounce back win.
Okay. Man United versus Bournemouth at Old Trafford.
Man, it's so hard to call because they're so Man United are so inconsistent. They win one week and they lose the next week. So you don't know what United is going to turn up. But at home, they should win. They should win at home.
Bournemouth are better at home, so I'll go for Man United win.
I'm going to back Bournemouth. Sorry, guys. Just am. And last but not least, Spurs versus Liverpool at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
That's going to be a draw.
That's what you want.
That's
what you believe.
I think it's going to be a draw.
Just at Anfield or
No, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
It doesn't really matter where it is, to be honest. I'm agree. I think it's gonna be a draw.
If it becomes a draw and Chelsea win, then you go top, no?
No, because they still got the game in hand, didn't it?
They would go top.
You will go top.
We'll be top, but they'll
temporarily
yeah,
they'll win the game.
Until they play Everton.
Yeah.
I have a feeling the song's going to come back. Tottenham get battered. I have a feeling it's going to come back.
If that happens, no, they won't sack him because they
I have a feeling that might happen, but at the same time, I kind of wish it doesn't. Yeah. But anyway, let's see what happens. Rashford might be out at Man United. Gary O'Neill and Ross Martin are definitely out at their clubs. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Chelsea are looking strong. Liverpool are wobbling a little bit, but they're still finding a way to score the crucial goals to get the point to keep this run going. And Arteta needs to pick the boys up off the canvas, dust us off, and get us back to 3 points. And that's us signing out.
Peace out.
Yes, peace.